But let's bring on board our technical experts, Hadrian Mendonca as well as Manav Chopra, both of them here with us this morning. Very happy Diwali to both of you. I'm going to start off with Hadrian and whether we will see a good Diwali cheer on the Nifty levels as well.
Yeah, hi, good morning and happy Diwali to you as well. Definitely we have seen, a pre-Diwali bash, in our markets. We have seen a good, healthy 500-600 point rally in the Nifty. Bank Nifty has participated as well. What's important here is we have definitely seen a breakout on the hourly charts, but the rally that we have seen in the past 2-3 days has been pretty steep. Steep rallies generally gives you a throwback. So, throwback means we could see a little bit of profit booking around these levels. Now, very importantly, it is approaching its long-term 200-day moving average. The Nifty is also approaching its most recent peak, which it hit on the 17th of October. That is the 10,700 levels as well. So 10,700 on the upside is going to act as a very important resistance. Nevertheless, we still have the scope of rallying by another 150 to 200 points from here. So definitely, the gauge has to be on the positive side. Long positions should continue to be held on to. As far as the Bank Nifty is concerned, again, the Bank Nifty has already hit the resistance of 200 DMA, and that is close to the most recent peak of 25,900. So if we see the Bank Nifty breaking out above the 25,900 levels, this is going to be a very deciding and important factor, because this could actually lift the markets much higher from here on. So 25,900 should be broken, otherwise we could see a little bit of consolidation going forward.
Okay. Manav, good morning and festive greetings to you and your team as well. How are you approaching trade today?
Thank you, and wish your entire team a very happy Diwali. Most importantly, the markets last week has formed a very strong reversal formation on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty both, which is confirming that we have confirmed a short-term bottom in place. And as per our expectation to our previous interview, where we had initiated a good aggressive long position in the Nifty at 10,100, and we were expecting a good rally towards 11,000. I think we are seeing that kind of a formation, nearing to that completion. Yes, there is a very strong base. The previous weekly resistance has seen a very good breakout, which was at 10,500, and the markets are consolidating above that. So as long as we continue to hold 10,400 on the weekly basis, I think things are going to see a good up move in the near-term perspective. The immediate targets would be on a very short term would be 10,750, but 11,000 is what we are eyeing at. Even for Bank Nifty, after that series of positive divergence between Nifty and Bank Nifty, a swift rally in Bank Nifty has actually led to a good move in the indices, and it has some important support around the levels of 25,500. So as long as these levels are holding, I think our original targets of 26,550 is what we continue to hold, and we still expect this upside to be achieved in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, let's try and nail it down to specific stock ideas as well for the morning before we talk about some key movers. Hadrian, I'll come to you first. Your stock specific recommendations for the morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Neeraj, and happy Diwali to you as well.
Thank you, Adrian.
As long as the the recommendations are concerned, we have one long and one short. So first is Reliance Industries, and we are long on it. We're seeing a very good accumulation pattern breakout on the smaller time frame charts, and I think one should not miss out on the Reliance Industries. We're expecting a short-term target of 1130 and keeping a stop loss at 1070. Second is we're short on Balrampurchini Industries November futures. We have seen a very sharp reversal after a very strong rally. It has broken down its short-term moving averages, which is indicating that further downside cannot be ruled out. So we're expecting a short-term target of around 1030 levels, and expecting and keeping a stop loss of close to 1079, with a disclaimer that we may have also given the same call to most of our clients.
Okay. Manav, what about you? Your ideas for the morning?
Yes, my first buy call is on NBCC. Basically, the stock has seen a good rebound from its oversold levels. Previous 3-4 trading sessions has witnessed a good move, and most importantly, the volumes are above its 50-day average volumes, and we have witnessed some sort of a spike coming from the oversold levels. Also, there are some momentum indicators which are indicating that the prices would see some further up moves. Even at the current levels, the NBCC is witnessing some good high margin of safety and a good risk reward ratio. I recommend a buy into this with a stop loss of 59, and we expect an upside target towards 70. My second buy call will be on Mothersumi. Prices after good recent decline has formed a double bottom formation on the daily charts and has witnessed a good short-term bottom in place. There is an important support at 168 to 170 on the downside, and one should look to initiate a buy on dips approach. Since the prices have already witnessed a good healthy correction, and a base formation at the lower levels, it's a high probability trade that the prices would be testing its neckline of the double bottom top. So in that case, 190 would be the upside target, and the stop loss is 165 on the downside.
All right. Gentlemen, just stay on with us. We'll take a quick detour and on to our special segment, Bloomberg Edge, where Yash Upadhyay tells us about a pattern that the terminal has thrown up on a particular stock or a trend that he is spotting. Yash, what's on your radar today?
Good morning, Devina. Mindtree is the stock that we are looking at, and there the MACD that has turned positive. So first, let's try and understand what the MACD indicator is. It is a trend following momentum indicator which shows the relationship between two moving price averages. How do you interpret it? You go long when the MACD line crosses from below the signal line. That indicates a positive crossover, and you sell when the MACD line that falls below the signal line from above. So in this case, the first scenario that has taken place, the blue line over here, that is the MACD line, and with the Monday's move, it has managed to cross over the white line, which is the signal line. Now, what we saw on the charts is that over here we saw a big big bearish candle following the results, and since then it has been largely trading in a narrow range somewhere around the 800 mark. It has been testing those levels and has been trying to break up from that. And here the MACD indicator that has turned positive, indicating that there could be room for an upside from these levels.
Okay, and how well has this worked in the past?
So every time you went long when the indicator turned positive, it would have given you a positive return of 14.5% over the last 1 year.
All right, not bad, 14.5%. Thanks a lot for that, Yash, appreciate it. That's Bloomberg Edge for you. Let's go back to a few other stocks, and Cipla being one in yesterday's session saw a deep gash of about 7.5%. Disappointed the street on its numbers. The stock's at 563, but if you heard Darshan's link before, you still have a potential upside of about 11% on the stock as per the Bloomberg analysts. On the charts, after yesterday's break of 7%, Hadrian, what would you do with Cipla?
Definitely, I would not go long. If you look at the larger, time frame charts, it has actually been dented after yesterday's that big move. On the monthly charts, we saw a symmetrical triangle breakout, but because of this sharp downfall, it is actually turning out to be, a false breakout. And false breakouts, tend to give you very, very strong move on the opposite direction. So I think on the downside, there is still scope for Cipla to touch the 500, 520 zone. That is where I will actually consider, going long. But right now, I'll definitely not go long.
Okay, what else? I think amongst companies that cracked a little bit in trade yesterday as well, there were 2 or 3 that stood out. Firstly, Indocount, and I think they've got some labor disruptions in one of the units. The stock was down about 5% in trade yesterday itself. But let's see if there is more in store here. But sugar as well. I was listening to the morning podcast, Devina, and sugar prices are down about 3% in overnight trade. So commodities by and large have come off, but sugar and coffee in particular have come off quite rapidly in trade yesterday. So there's a bit of a correction yesterday in the likes of Balrampurchini and some of the others. It could be interesting to monitor what happens to these companies today as well. After having a fair bit of a run, could there be a bit of a pullback because of global sugar prices coming off? Because that kind of disrupts reduces the earnings on the export opportunity that some of these companies would have in the current sugar year as well. With an assumption that the prices...
a culmination of factors like even the recent run-up, like you said. So on a technical basis, probably looking a little bit stretched also. And obviously those reasons, I'm not saying that, it's only purely technicals, but it's already run up so far. So some profit taking probably.
Yeah, so some profit taking. I think that would be about it, because I think it's difficult to predict what the sugar prices will do over the course of the next 1 month because of one day's move. But maybe there's a knee-jerk reaction expected in today's session as well. I'm just wondering, Manav, would you take a trade on any of the sugar names? Keep in mind, Balrampur's cracked about 5% yesterday. Could open slightly weak today's session as well.
In fact, the prices of most of the sugar stock has been in a consolidation since last 8 to 10 trading sessions. Balrampurchini also faces important resistance close to the levels of 105, 110, and it has a good important weekly support around the levels of 98. So overall, I sense these stocks would be trading in a broader range. What looks very good in most of the sugar space is that on the monthly perspective there has been a very good reversal formation. So in case if there is any pullback rally towards the important weekly support zone, I think that would be the time that one can look to initiate some sort of a long positions. I sense if we see some at least 5 to 8% correction in Balrampurchini towards the support of 90.95, I think that would be the right levels, because that also coincides with some of the long-term averages and important Fibonacci clusters. So at the moment, I think one can let go this stock and wait for the right time, and once if the prices are at the support, I think that is the time that one can look to initiate long positions.
Okay. The other one to watch out for, probably just in light of the festive season and the pickup in demand for jewelry and gold in particular, would be a Titan Industries. Whether or not this actually perks things up, at the company in terms of their sales figures. Titan, though, on stock price performance, the last few days has not been doing all that much. Last 1 month, stock's been up 9%. But Hadrian, do you see this stock reaching those levels of 900, 950 soon?
Yes, there is a scope for Titan to move towards the 900 levels, and 900 levels is also very important. Rising trend line resistance zone for Titan on a monthly chart. So that's very important to note down. But the rally, we have already seen, the jewelry theme being factored in, as we've seen since the 23rd October lows of 750 odd levels. We have already rallied over 100 rupees in Titan. During this switch, we have seen the 200-day moving average also been broken pretty convincingly. So I think as long as we hold above the 840, 850 zone, I think there shouldn't be any problem. In the short run, we could use any kind of declines to accumulate Titan, and one could play for targets close to 900 odd levels in, going forward.
All right, that's Titan for you. We're just about 2.5 minutes left to go from market pre-open. And the other one that dipped in yesterday's session is an Indiabulls housing finance. Stock was down about 4.5% in trade, but nonetheless, the last 7 days have been relatively good. In fact, the stock has really pulled back and, given gains of almost 22% in the last 7 days. Is there more steam left here, or you see a case for more profit-taking here, Manav?
See, from the NBFC space, I would want to comment on DHFL, as Indiabulls would. I would not want to speak on the compliance process. NBFCs, yes, definitely has seen a good bounce from the oversold levels, and faces some sort of a headwinds, at least when it comes to the technical structure. The structure formation of some of these stocks have been distorted, but looking at the charts for DHFL, I sense that there is still a trading opportunity into this, as the prices has seen some sort of a short-term bottom in place. I don't call this for a good medium-term, long-term opportunity, but it can just be traded for a short-term. It has important supports on the intraday basis, also close to the levels of 210. Since there is a big volatility increased in this stock, I think one has to keep a stop loss below 200 levels, and in case if the 200 level is sustained, there is a chance that the prices would break its recent peak of 240 and eventually even rally towards the levels of 265. So for a trade per se, I think DHFL is well placed, and look for an intraday dip. Keep a stop loss of 200 for your longs.
Let's wait and watch what happens to some of the NBFCs in today's session as well. We'll get in Sajid in a few minutes from now to talk about the kind of redemption numbers that some of these NBFCs are facing, or rather the CPs that are coming up for renewal, or any kind of paper that is coming up for renewal. and then people would be hoping that they do find takers for all of these papers. But 30 seconds left for the pre-open session, and we might start off with a tinge of green, which is not too unwelcome considering what happened yesterday.
Sure, Neeraj, but the overall, going just by the Q of SGX may not work for us because most of the times we see some little bit of divergence from the SGX. But nonetheless, the mood seems to be slightly more optimistic across Asia. We're going to be watching it closely for the currency because once again, it took, it's around that 73.13 mark. So that's going to be important to keep an eye out on. That's SGX for you, 10,584. Positive, yes, about 0.5%. Goes to see whether we hold on to those gains as we progress through trade. That's the Nifty for you, 10,590, 35,196 on the Sensex as well. So not a bad start. Yesterday's start was also positive, but towards the end we sort of petered off. Amongst the gainers on the Nifty, HPCL stacks up at the top, 10% higher. You have actually a Tata Motors as well, which has gained about 10%. Tata Motors, on the other hand, is one stock which has really come off those lows of around 165, 170 that it had actually made a few days back, and the progression has been pretty strong on this stock. Bajaj Finance is the other one, 3.8% higher. M&M is 2.3% higher. Ultratech Cement, SBI, 3.5% higher. Remember, a good set of numbers from SBI, a good progression towards managing their asset quality, and the management also pretty optimistic on the future road ahead. That stock's up 3.5%. Titan is up 1.1%. ONGC, Reliance, the big boy, is up 1% as well. So a slew of stocks in the green. Amongst the stocks in the red, Vedanta is down 2%. UPL, Bajaj Auto, and HDFC Bank and Kotak Bank are in the red.
Okay, just a couple of stocks. Before we do that, the currency at 72.91. So after the slam dunk yesterday, a bit of a pullback and some bit of a green on the screen. The bond yield should come up on your screen. 7.78 was where we started off yesterday, currently at 7.80, so just about those levels. Quickly, Mayuresh Joshi, of course, Johnson, fund manager at Angel Broking, with his thoughts. I just want to mark though a couple of stocks before I go across to Mayuresh. Balkrishna Industries, and let's see what that one is doing in the session today. Should come up on your screen. They've cut the volume guidance, and that shouldn't augur too well for the stock, about 3% lower in trade. There's an unnatural 10% downtick in United Spirits, which I think will correct itself. Let's wait and watch. And sugar could have a slightly tough day in trade. Let's wait and watch if that lasts or no. But as I said, Mayuresh Joshi, fund manager at Angel Broking, with us on the show to talk about his thoughts. 3 or 4 pockets that we want to highlight and talk about with Mayuresh very quickly. Mayuresh, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in, and festive greetings to the entire team at Angel. Let's start off with Cipla. 7% correction yesterday already. Is there more in store, or would you use this weakness to buy into Cipla?
Morning, Neeraj. I think I'm very happy Diwali to all of you at Bloomberg, Quint, and all the viewers. Again, I think in terms of the core numbers that Cipla presented yesterday, I think it was disappointing in terms of how the top line has grown. And yes, the company did allude to some sort of issues that they're probably facing, both in terms of pricing and what can probably go through in terms of key approvals for a few of their A&D applications. At the same time, I think the percolation of all this clearly reflected on the EBITDA margins, which were soft, and on the bottom line as well. So what clearly happens specifically in terms of approvals, that is going to be extremely critical. The second element obviously is going to be their inhaler stroke respiratory products, which are expected to come through. So they've clearly said, at least in the last quarter, I could not hear last quarter's con call, was that Pro Air would probably get delayed by a few more quarters, and even the Proventil A&D, I think that should probably come through over the next few quarters. So what really happens in terms of earnings growth and the kind of valuations that Cipla is demanding, with expectations of these products coming through, I think it is fairly valued at this point of time. So again, I think there might be some softness which might continue on this stock.
Okay. Mayuresh, how closely do you look at Balkrishna Industries? That company's results came out, but more importantly, they've cut the volume growth guidance after upping it or revising it in Q1 FY19. The stock starting off marginally lower today, but what's the impact to your mind?
Again, I think sentimentally, Neeraj, it will get hit because what they had, what they were expected to do, rather, in terms of the volume guidance that they had given out a few quarters back, I think that does have some amount of an effect as volumes are cut. But is there potential? Is there scope that this company can deliver? Because the kind of market share that it currently sits on, the expectations in the OFT market, probably I think in terms of what they can deliver, both through utilization of its Bhuj facility and expectations that they will gain market share because of the labor arbitrage that they possess. I think there are key opportunities that probably are there in front of them. They've also got their key strengths in terms of, as I said, utilizing the Bhuj plant completely. And yes, I think raw material input cost inflation does play truant with a weaker currency, but that to a certain extent also gets offset in terms of the exports that they do. So I think there is an element of growth that will come through if one really has a long-term horizon. But with the volume guidance that has got lowered, yes, I think the earnings estimate should probably get lowered, which means that the stock might see a sentimental downside, at least from a short-term perspective.
Mayuresh, within the banking pack of late, looking at what Yes Bank has been doing, it's difficult to gauge. But what would the call be on this, prior to the appointment of the new head at the bank?
So I think, Divina, that's a very interesting perspective. I think who comes at the helm of affairs as Yes Bank will probably have a large say in terms of how the moment of the stock will be and what kind of efforts, again, I think the new management will take in terms of capital raising, because that is going to be a dire need of an hour. So I think anybody who is credible enough and who the street probably accepts, I think the capital raising will become far more easier, and that is a very critical aspect, specifically in terms of the balance sheet expansion that Yes Bank desires, if it is expected to grow at 25, 30 or even beyond that. In terms of the other core key parameters, my own sense is that whatever they have reported in Q2, I think the loan growth was fantastic, the deposit growth was absolutely okay. What you probably seen in terms of CASA accretion, I think they are probably on the path in terms of achieving those targets. NIMs might get affected to a certain bit, but pretty sure, I think like most banks, I think the MCLR hikes or rises will probably ensure that NIMs remain stable. And asset quality, both in terms of reported numbers as well as expectations from the divergence that all these banks have to report vis-a-vis RBI's directive, I think they should be in a comfortable position. So I think this is going to be a critical aspect. But if they're able to find somebody who is credible enough and who the street accepts, I think the valuations probably are very, very attractive. So any significant decline, if the market does give an opportunity, I think we do believe that valuations are extremely attractive for a stock like Yes, but we equally like stocks like an RBL Bank or even something like an ICICI.
Mahesh, did you take a look at the announcement of Sterlite Tech? They've won yet another order worth 1,512 crores. It's a stock that's recouped a large portion of its losses, and therefore it's not cheap on the valuation front. So what would you advise somebody to do with Sterlite Tech?
No, it's a similar story, as I said. I think, yes, you're absolutely right. Valuations are nowhere cheap. But again, I think the kind of order wins that they're getting, I think that probably gives revenue visibility for the stock. The second element also is going to be the execution parameter. So I think once they've invested a significant amount, both in terms of the OF and the OFC capacity, I think the capacity increase itself will ensure that they are probably expected to take far more orders. And again, I think the kind of expectations that one really has in terms of their execution, I think if the execution is on track, my own sense is that the earnings trajectory that Stertech can actually deliver over the next few quarters can be humongous. Now, the other element obviously is going to be how the cash flows are going to pan out, because a large element of the capex is largely going to be behind them. Any execution and operating leverage on the balance sheet is going to throw out free cash, and that is going to create the necessary leverage on the balance sheet. So again, yes, I think the stock is not cheap on the valuation front, but anybody holding can hold on. I think fresh investors probably need to wait for decline and expect that if the markets do correct and if Stertech does correct along with that, I think they get an opportunity to enter into the stock.
All right, Mayuresh, thanks a lot for joining in. Really appreciate you taking out the time and sharing those views with us. Quick takes from Mayuresh. The other one that we can probably look at and go back to our technical experts for their opinion on the same is a Vedanta. I mean, the stock looks like it could probably have a sharper open on the downside, at least going by the pre-open ticks right now at 207. Hadrian, 207 on a Vedanta?
I think it's a little surprising to see, that in the opening ticks, in the pre-market opening ticks. But I think we've seen a very strong breakout with good volume participation 2 days back. And I think that breakout zone is around 215, 214 levels. So I think as long as those levels are held on to on a Vedanta, I think the breakout is still intact. And on the upside, we could see, Vedanta making an attempt again to move higher towards the 230, 235 levels. But if we breach the 214 levels, I think things could turn around, and on the downside, then the scope opens up towards 204, 200 levels as well. So 214, is going to act as very important support area for Vedanta.
Keep in mind ex-dividend and therefore this correction in Vedanta, no damage to a shareholder. Manav, quick 20-second call. Somebody was short on Cipla yesterday. Would you take profits off the table now or stay short?
Of course, one should definitely take the profits off. Simple reason, with a sharp decline, prices unlikely sees a good sharp follow down. And anybody who's holding shorts, I think the stop loss should be at 578.
Okay, thanks for that quick call, Manav. Stay on, gentlemen. Minutes away from market open, let's tell you all that you need to know to stay ahead in trade today. First up, earnings to watch out for. No Nifty names today, but important mid caps: Aditya Birla Capital, Dr. Lal PathLabs, Graphite India could likely come with a good quarter. Manappuram Finance and Voltas all report their September quarter results today.
And amongst the results that came out post-market hours yesterday, All Cargo Logistics, PNB Housing and Phoenix Mills reported strong set of numbers.
While it was a weak quarter for Power Grid, Godrej Agrovat, Sheela Foam, Fortis Healthcare, Inox Wind and Balkrishna Industries.
Cipla was expected to post a strong Q2. Now it has not only missed estimates but also come out with a weaker outlook for the second half of the year. Taking a cue from this, as many as 6 brokerages have downgraded the counter after the conference call with the management.
Specialty chemicals maker Bodal Chemical says majority of its dye intermediate operations have restarted. Certain facilities had to be shut down due to environmental concerns, according to an earlier exchange filing.
Lastly, some bulk deals. Reliance Strategic Investments has sold about 0.63% stake in BEML via a bulk deal, while William Blair has sold a similar portion of 0.66% stake in NIT Tech.
Okay. Comments from Chakri Lokpriya, Managing Director at TCG Asset Management, joins us right now on the show. Chakri, good having you. Thanks much for joining in, and festive greetings to you and your team. Are you in the buy mode right now, or are you in the wait and watch mode right now?
Good morning and happy Diwali and season's greetings to all of you. Yes, we are in the buy mode because you look at SBI results, and also there seems to be a sense of urgency on part of the government to resolve some of the issues which is impacting the lack of liquidity, lack of capital, which is a good thing. So, and also oil has come off significantly. It's down 18% in the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's a huge number. So while we don't know where oil is going eventually, but the current financials look far better than they did a month ago.
So in light of that, any investment changes to the portfolio?
Yes, indeed. Yesterday we added some State Bank of India, and the valuation still is under book value, probably at about 0.8, 0.9 times book. And it clearly looks like SBI, and along with some of the larger banks, will take away some market share from the NBFCs, both whether it is the consumer loan or whether it is medium-term loans. And I think that will support credit growth, and credit growth supports higher valuation. And therefore, that's what we've been adding.
Chakri, between buying an SBI and an ICICI bank, both of which look on the cusp of major recoveries, which one would you prefer?
I like both. That's a tough one, but if I have to pick one, it would be ICICI because the ROE improvement that you can see over the next year or so is far more clearer. Well, as SBI, equally good bank, but I think it will be a slower recovery process. This is the first quarter they've turned into a profit in the recent quarters.
Any other space aside from financials?
Financials, other than financials, consumer post their sell-offs, and auto ancillaries, but they were all down 40%, 30-40%. And some of them are beginning to look good on their valuation basis. So I think it's basically consumer-related ones we'll begin to look at.
All right. Chakri, appreciate you taking out the time. Quick thoughts from Chakri Lokpriya there on the markets. We've got a minute left to go for market open. Let's quickly go across and get some top trading calls from our technical experts. I'll start off with you, Hadrian.
Yes, I'll go with a sell Jubilant Food November futures. We are observing an extension of the weakness that we've seen in the past 2 days. I think in the short term, we're expecting a target of 1025, keeping a strict stop loss at 1073 on the upside.
Got that. Manav, what about you?
See, at the current levels, something from the PSU banks definitely looks quite favorable. I think Unionbank would be my top pick. At the current levels, there has been a good volume uptick in last couple of trading sessions. Strong support at 77. Keep a stop of 77 on the lower side for an upside target of 86.
Okay, Manav, as well as Hadrian, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in today with your perspectives, and once again, wishing you and your teams a very happy festive season. 3 seconds left for the markets to kickstart trade. We'll start off marginally positive, about 0.25% likely, and then let's see what we do post that. Yeah, about 0.25% for almost all of the key indices. The Nifty Bank not participating as much.